Good Wednesday to you. Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat with Jim Coyle here on Big X Sports Radio. Justin Kalen, high atop the crew chief's box, as always, keeping us rolling.
That's right.
Hope you're having a happy hump day.
Hump day.
It is Wednesday. Big show as always today. Matt Weaver from Peegs.com. We're going to talk some football, a little recruiting information as well for Indiana. Ken Bikoff is on the program today from the Peegs podcast. The historian. Love talking to Ken. He is the man with 1,000 stories.
Probably been too long since we've talked to him.
It has been. I may be selling him short. Before we get any further, let's get to the headlines with Justin.
All right, here are your headlines for this Wednesday, September 26th. Brought to you by Billy Joe's Gas and Food Mart, located on Highway 150 in Floyd's Knobs. Make sure you stop in for your hot breakfast, fill your gas tank, or hit up their daily lunch special. Daily lunch special today, more like a Thanksgiving dinner, for $5.99 meatloaf, mashed potatoes, and green beans. Former Lakers and Pacers coach Jack McKinney dies at 83 last night. Max Scherzer of the Nationals becomes just the 17th player since 1900 with 300 strikeouts in a season. And the Astros get their 100th win and win the AL West title last night. Those are your headlines, brought to you by Billy Joe's Gas and Food Mart, located on Highway 150 in Floyd's Knobs. $5.99 today. Meatloaf, mashed potatoes, and green beans.
Having a little trouble with those numbers.
My gosh.
But what
Blah,
cracking me
blah,
up,
blah.
usually it's 17. Now this one was 17. It was like numbers that were they're not even related. I'm like, what? 347? What?
I think I should make it known I went to Eastern Pekin, so we didn't really learn all of our numbers. Thanks for pointing out my struggles, though.
I don't think you needed my help. Hope you're having a great day. Thanks a lot for taking us along wherever you're going, whatever you may be doing. We appreciate it. Reach out on the text line, 502-414-1450. Let's get us started. Let us know what you're thinking about, what's going on, what's on your mind. Questions for Matt Weaver and Ken Bikoff today. Fire those babies along as well. Keep us growing. Remember, we're brought to you by Kentuckiana's Premier Truck Center, whether it's one truck or the entire fleet. Kentuckiana Premier Truck Center has your company covered for sales and service. They have locations in Louisville and Clarksville, specialists in Volvo, Emo, Cummins, and Mack, but they handle everything. Sales and service, all you guys out there in the big rigs driving those trucks and listening to us, we appreciate you. But check out Kentuckiana's Premier Truck Center. Help those that help you. They're bringing the Hoosiers coverage to you. Brooks Roofing also, brooksroofingiron.com. The protection you need when Mother Nature strikes. Brooks Roofing is probably working in your neighborhood right now. Get that roof taken care of. They are the roofing specialists and local. They are from here in Indiana. So reach out to Brooks Roofing. That's brooksroofingiron.com. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Hand-tossed pizzas. Bold Burgers and ice cold beer. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer. We appreciate everybody helping us out. Bring the coverage to you. But that's how it gets to you. Make sure you take care of the people that are supporting you and your cause. Reynolds Family Dentistry also. For over 30 years, Reynolds Family Dentistry has been taking care of the needs of the Hoosier families, Southern Indiana Hoosier families. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. They're located right in Sellersburg, Indiana. Reynolds Family Dentistry. That takes care of that, huh?
That does. And you mentioned the text line, 502-414-1450. Josh sent in a text near the end of the show yesterday we didn't get to. I thought we should get to today. He said, expecting Mike DeBoer to have a good game plan is asking too much. We had a top 25 defense last year and went 5-7. He's a problem.
Yep, I agree. I just we've gone over that a lot, and I just feel that some rejuvenation is needed in the offense. I think it's a little stagnant. I think that a little youth movement. They have a lot of youth on the field. I think that should be matched with a little bit of younger mind on the offensive side. And no, I have no one in mind. It's just that I find that here's what I think. Indiana's a team that they've got a decent defense that's going to get better. Last year they had a good defense, really good. but they had the same issue, an offense that was stagnant, almost non-existent. Why not do something different? Just, throwing it out there for whatever, giggles. Just a thought. Why not just try it? What do you got to lose? You're 5-7. I mean, that's what I don't get. You got nothing to lose and everything to gain. But that's people playing for their jobs, I think.
Yeah.
Just protecting a job, just going to go along and, hey, we can be 6-6. We can get to a bowl game. That'll make us look great. I'm tired of that. I'm tired of acceptance of mediocrity. If you accept mediocrity, you're mediocre. But that's okay if that's what you want. But don't act like you want something better. Don't talk like you want something more. I mean, the truth be told, Indiana accepts mediocrity. I love Tom Allen. He's a great guy. His recruiting has been exceptional. He's a defensive mastermind. Tremendous. Head coach as a head coach, I'm not sure where he is. Of course, he was not a head coach before he took the Indiana job. So we know, he doesn't have any experience there. I think it shows. That's why I think that he should have pulled the string on the board a year ago. But it is what it is, and that's where we are. But we'll talk to Matt Weaver about today. We'll talk about the football team coming up, as well as some recruiting information. They are on the short list for a big-time quarterback out of Florida. Of course, David Bell, he set his recruiting date. We'll talk to Matt about that as well. Hoosier hysteria, days away. My goodness, Bloomington's going to be a madhouse. Yeah. I'm not sure why they moved it up to 4 o'clock, other than it's probably for TV, I bet. But, if you get there before 2 o'clock, I think you have to park on someplace outside of the stadium. They don't open up. They're not opening up the parking lots until like 2 hours before.
Aren't they inviting people to come in and watch the football game, though?
Yeah.
Doesn't that start at noon?
Well, yeah, you can come in at 2. You can't come in and watch the whole game. Well, yeah, no, I think that let's get that information. I just posted it. So
if they do not let people come in and watch the whole game, it's pointless. You come in early for an hour.
It takes 3.5 hours.
Yeah.
For a football game.
But how many opportunities are you going to have in your lifetime to go sit in Assembly Hall and watch a football game?
Well, that's your tough luck. That means they'd have to have people in there working for that much longer.
Yeah.
You'd have to let them in at noon.
Yeah.
If that were the case.
Well, I mean, you let them in at 2, that game's already over.
It starts at noon.
That's what I'm saying. It's over. It's over at 2. It'll be over. In reality, it's over at 3. I mean, on the score line at 2 o'clock, that game's over. See what I'm saying?
Okay. So what do you want them to do? Again, bring people in that all have to work for 4 hours that they don't need us to do just so they can watch the football game, the entire football game? They can go watch the first half someplace else.
Yeah.
And watch the second half on they're just doing it as a courtesy, but
yeah. Yeah, I mean, sure, they don't have to do that at all.
Yeah, that would just be a long time, and who wants to go sit there for 4 hours? And then you got to sit through. Then you got Hoosier hysteria that's coming up as well. So that would be having the workers there for a lot longer, and all. That's a whole nother ball of logistical wax in that deal.
When I worked for IU Event Services, I would have been down.
Well, of course.
Sign it up.
You were getting paid to do something for nothing.
Exactly.
You like that, getting paid to do something for nothing.
That's exactly what it was.
I know.
The only time you got to work is before the game starts. Once the game starts, you're golden.
Keon Brooks named his top 6, which the funny thing is, before we went on the air, I'm like, no big deal to me. I don't really know who he eliminated. Same teams are the ones that we've been hearing about, so I don't know that who was left off.
Yeah.
Doesn't look like anyone. But if you not seen it, if you haven't seen it, of course, his top six: Indiana, Purdue, Kentucky, UCLA, North Carolina, and who am I leaving off?
Michigan State.
Michigan State, Sparty.
5 Blue Bloods in Purdue.
Yeah, it's a funny thing. I almost sent a post, but I didn't. I counted up, I think, 31 national titles between all those schools, and then you got Purdue. But all 5 out of the 6 national champions. Then you got Purdue. But that was just kind of funny. But that's a great choice that he's got. Those are 5 blue blood basketball schools he's got listed, and Purdue, like you said.
He'll be all right.
Yeah.
Way.
Someone asked me what's the percentage I think that he goes to Indiana, and I put down 65%.
Seems about right.
I figured that was
probably pretty close.
About on, not too much. You got to allow for the fact that all these other programs, it's a tough decision for him. I mean, Michigan State's a great program, great fan base. Kentucky, as much as we don't like them, successful program, rabid fan base. UCLA, storied program. North Carolina, same. So, but
no surprises.
He's an Indiana boy. Yeah, no surprises whatsoever. I'm surprised. I mean, it was just a quiet little thing. That's why there was nothing made out of it.
No.
I don't think anyone was left off of the list. But we've got a big program coming up for you today. As usual, Matt Weaver from Peegs.com's on. We're going to be talking a little bit of football. Ken Bikoff from Peegs Podcast is along for the program today. We got, who knows what we'll talk about with Kenny. He's got all kinds of great stories. That and a whole lot more. Make sure you stay tuned. Keep it on Indiana Sports Beat with Jim Coyle. This is Jim Coyle. When I'm not on the road covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 on the northeast side of I-65 at Veterans Parkway in Clarksville. Bring the team in for that post-win meal in the family dining area or just meet friends for happy hour. Bubba's has bold burgers, hand-tossed pizzas, mouth-watering wings, and a list of select local craft brewers for the coldest beer in town. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Burgers, pizza, beer.
Got a problem with your big truck? Kentucky and its premier truck center is here to help. For over 30 years, truck drivers and fleet operators have depended on their great service center off I-65 in Clarksville. And now you can get the same level of service, repairs, and part selection that's been offered for generations and save on bridge tolls with their new location on the Outer Loop in South Louisville. They're an authorized Mack, Volvo, and Hino dealer and service center, but they service all makes and models of trucks. Kentuckiana's premier truck center.
Today's guest is brought to you by Brooks Roofing, the protection you need when Mother Nature strikes. BrooksRoofingIN.com.
All my friends know the low rider.
You know what that means? It is Chronic Hoosier coming up. Chronic, how you doing, my friend?
I'm doing outstanding. How about you fellas today?
Doing great, bro. Doing great. Got a little soggy weather outside. Other than that, it's another good Hoosier day, though.
No, it is. I'll tell you what. Fall's in the air.
Definitely
this weekend
so.
It officially turned.
It's right. Little disappointing events Saturday night up in Bloomington. A great opportunity for the Indiana Hoosiers as they had Michigan State coming in, a very good team, number 23rd ranked in the country, best run defense in the country, but a team that I think, and I still think, Indiana could have beaten, but they just could not get the job done.
No, I think this game illustrates just how thin IU's margin of error is. I think it exposed a lot of the vulnerabilities, or rather liabilities, that the team does possess. You look at the pick six in the first half, and this is a team that's not built to play from behind like that. Once they get off script, once they got forced into situations where they were not only going to have to pass, but they were going to be forced to pick up some big yardage and make up a 2-score deficit. It's just one of those situations where they They cannot do that very effectively. That said, though, you take away. I was breaking this down yesterday, or rather Sunday, after I'd kind of cooled down and was watching it a second time. Between the pick six, you look at the Jalen Naylor jet sweep, 75 yards for a touchdown, and then again the interception in the fourth quarter, and just backbreakers, each and every one of them.
The fake field goal.
The fake field goal, absolutely, as well, too.
But plus, we heard
that,
Tom Allen. I'm sorry to interrupt, but I heard Tom talking today about that fake field goal and that they weren't caught off guard, that they kind of thought that they were running it and had planned against it, but they didn't execute. So that really, really hurts when you know something's coming and you can't stop it.
No, you're exactly right. And it's one of those situations, though, where IU actually, I felt, and it seemed more apparent rewatching it, I felt IU actually played them pretty straight up defensively. I mean, you take out that 75-yard run from Naylor, and IU held them to an average of 1.4 yards per carry. And obviously Michigan State's best rushing defense in the country. But I thought our defense performed pretty admirably. To be perfectly honest with you, I think what really stood out to me is, one, the offensive line just was totally ineffective against the Spartans. They couldn't get any push for the running game, which you kind of expected was going to be the case, but even more concerning, and something that's been persistent throughout. It hasn't been exacerbated as much, or exploited rather, but this team really struggles to provide protection for their quarterback. I mean, we can talk about you can talk about Peyton Ramsey's inability to get the ball downfield, but I think what's really compounding this problem is when he doesn't have more than a second and a half to operate in the back, he's under duress most of the time. If he's trying to get the ball down deep, there's just not enough time for him to get a clear passing lane. The pocket is just not performing as you would hope from a line that was supposed to be this team's strength, and I still think they've got some wins in them. I still think you're going to see some explosive rushing from Stevie Scott and the rest of the backfield. I just think in this game, when you look at a team like Michigan State, a ranked team, pretty indicative of what you're going to see on par for the rest of the Big Ten East, or at least the top end of it. We were weighed, measured, and we were found to be wanting pretty thoroughly.
Yeah, and I've been talking about it earlier today and yesterday as well. And while I don't think Peyton did a great job, a large part of it was on the line, like you just talked about, and being the strength, they didn't perform very well at all, especially considering that this is the same team that played against a Utah State team that was able to put well over 300 yards passing up against them, because Michigan State's secondary is not that good. But that was also 2 weeks prior. They had 2 more weeks of practice against before they played Indiana. But the thing, Peyton's a good quarterback. He's a solid quarterback. He's got command of the team, but there are just deficiencies, I think, that his arm strength. I think that making just a simple 7-yard out pass across the field, it takes a long time to get there because unless he could put everything he's got into it, it takes a while to get there. Going downfield, they took a couple shots early and almost hit a big one with Reese Taylor. If that thing hits, that's probably a game changer. But both times he tries to go downfield, he's long, just not quite there. And I'm just personally, I want to see Michael Penix get a shot. I don't understand the handling with kid gloves like a China doll. Clemson just announced they're going with a freshman quarterback starter. USC's had a starting. I think you got to take a shot. You got to take a risk. Otherwise, I think you're looking at a 6-6 season.
Well, there's another play. I want to say it was Filer. I can't recall exactly. Ramsey tried to connect with them in the front corner of the end zone, right side, and just really floated one to him. It was about a 20, 25-yard pass, if I'm not mistaken, for at least from where he released the ball to where it got to the end of the end zone. But it floated so high and took so long to get there that it gave the defender just enough time to get his body squared, come over the receiver's shoulder, and bat the pass down. It literally requires a quarter second more zip on the ball, and that's probably a TD. But that's one of, aside from that, that's one of the few instances where IU actually tried to connect from a distance of greater than 15 yards or so. I feel like that's one of the things that you see in DeBoer's play calling. This offense is very much horizontally aligned. It likes to go side to side. It likes to stay within 10 yards. There's not a whole lot of deep ball threat. And when you play against a team like Michigan State, who's got such tremendous power up front, and their front seven stopping the run, you've got to find a way to stretch that defense out, not only to pick up the yards, but to keep the box a little less uncluttered. I don't know that as currently configured with what they're calling for, that this is going to be an offense. It's I'm less concerned about the Ohio State and the Penn State game, perhaps Michigan, than I am the Iowas and the Minnesotas.
Exactly.
You're going to have to be able to get the ball downfield more effectively than what we've seen so far from Ramsey, because there's going to be games that the rushing attack just isn't as effective as you want it to be. And like we saw against Michigan State, when this team starts playing from behind, you get them off script. It makes things exponentially more difficult for them. And it didn't feel like they had a lot of answers once they found themselves in that position. That said, I felt like the defense did everything within their power for the most part to keep the game within striking distance. You take away that pick six, as I say, IU can score there. That's a 14-point swing, and they're in this game at halftime. I think this team is going to find themselves in position to be competitive in the fourth quarter late, to have the game in the balance. But at the end of the day, you got to score more points than your opponent. You've got to get points on the board. And, I'm not totally ready to throw Ramsey out right now. I do think he does a great job managing the game, but I think his limitations are pretty clear to most fans, and I think they're probably glaringly clear to a lot of the defensive coordinators in the league on how you got to attack this team and how you got to keep them off the board. So we'll see what happens. Obviously, with Rutgers coming up this week, it should give them a great opportunity to bounce back. Get 2/3 of the way to bowl eligibility. One thing I noticed in Bill Conley's latest rankings, IU has a greater than not chance of becoming bowl eligible right now. I think he puts it at about 83%, if I'm not mistaken. It's certainly within reach for the Hoosiers, but again, it's going to come down to those games, the Minnesotas, the Marylands, in order for them really to solidify this thing. So we'll see what happens. I felt like the defense has adjusted well. I'm anxious to see if the offense can respond accordingly. Actually, I misspoke. 84% is Conley's odds of bowl eligibility right now.
Looking forward to that happening. I don't know what the apprehension with Penix is. He's was here since January. He's shown he can play when he's been in. So I'm of the mindset, give him a shot. You've got nothing to lose here. Especially against Rutgers. I don't think they could lose against Rutgers if I was starting at quarterback. Rutgers is that bad. So I think this is a great opportunity to get him some serious snaps because to me they're giving all of the snaps to Ramsey and getting him all that valuable experience when his limitations I don't think are ever going to change. I don't think his ceiling is going to rise that much more, where Penix has a much higher ceiling, but he's not getting the snaps that he could be getting right now. I think he could have gotten a lot of snaps, even against Virginia. I don't care that it was in the rain. I think that he could have handled it well. He's from Florida. He played in the rain his whole life. But that's not for me to decide, I guess. But I just don't understand it.
No, if the staff's concern is this cloak of uncertainty on a freshman, the only way that you can remove that is to get him in and get him some snaps, put him in game action situations and see what he can do. When he has been in, he's been pretty proficient in connecting a little bit longer than what we see from Ramsey. I kind of agree with you. I've been surprised the last couple of games when you reach that midway through the third quarter period where we saw him against FIU, and he performed pretty well. I'm not sure. Perhaps they are still trying to preserve some hope of his red shirt. I'd pretty much discounted that at this point. But the way that they continue to withhold him, I guess that puts that question back into frame, whether or not this is one of those things where they're really just trying to save him, or at some point they're going to have to make a decision, especially when you're playing 2 scores down. You got to open it all up if you're going to give yourself a chance. And I think right now with their refusal to put him in, and Ramsey's inability to get the ball again longer than the chains, it's going to handicap the Hoosiers going forward, especially if they find themselves in another situation where they got some scores to make up.
Absolutely, and we'll see how we going forward how they do. Basketball coming up. Simon Scott Assembly Hall will be jumping on Saturday. Chronic Hoosier Hysteria kicks off at 4:00. Big atmosphere.
I'm looking forward to this one like I haven't probably since 13. And, it's one of those situations where, we spend all this time, especially when it comes to basketball. Hoosiers love to talk them some hoops in the offseason, because what else do we have to do? The corn's just going to grow whether you're talking or not. You might as well have some fun and talk about what the basketball team's going to look like. But, this is when it really begins to actualize. This is when the potential becomes, starts to come into focus. The staff does a great job. The program does a great job of, keeping you connected to the program throughout the off-season workouts and whatnot. I am so ready to lay eyes on these boys. I am so ready to see Romeo in that Indiana jersey. And more than anything, I'm a big fan of, the pomp and circumstance has kind of left the building. To be honest, if I had to guess, Archie could probably do without this and most other the extrinsic stuff involved with his job. There's not a lot of show here. I'm ready to watch the Hoosiers play some basketball, and I think Archie's going to come out like we saw last year. They're going to give the boys some run. They'll let them take their bows and whatnot. I think it's going to be a pretty electric environment. I probably recommend everybody get there early. If years past hold true now,
like 9 a.m.
It's going to be a pretty big crowd there. Pretty early in the day. So
plus, it's tons of people who normally don't get a chance to go. So a lot of people are going to be unfamiliar with parking, this and that. I think everything's going to slow down because of that. Getting there early is going to be tantamount. It's going to be a huge environment. I mean, I think it's going to be big environment just because last year's class was so looked forward to, like you said. Just kind of I think it's even a little bit more exciting than 13. It was a different situation. 13 was kind of like a reawakening. This is different. It's kind of a different. This is like a ascending kind of a thing. But the talent that's there is huge. But then also they got a lot of big time recruits going to be there. Trace Jackson and Keon Brooks, and amongst others, Christian Lander, a whole bunch of guys in there.
Yeah, when you look at it from that aspect, as far as the recruiting value, last season there was certainly a lot of optimism around the program. Maybe not individual outcomes throughout the games, but this is one of those situations where it really gives everybody a first look at what Hoosier Nation is capable of, what the passion actually feels like. Because when you're down on the court and that place is full and it's turned up, the energy in that gym is visceral. It's just absolutely a magical feeling, and I always love it. You see the players come out for the first time wearing that jersey, and I can't emphasize it enough, you feel that crowd when you come out. And same thing goes for recruits, and whereas last year's hysteria was kind of more a celebration of a new coach, and a first glimpse there, this is one where I think it's a little bit more team-centric. This is one where you've got, the home state hero has come to claim his crown, and it's going to be a coronation. I fully expect there to be a very electric vibe. I'm excited not just for Romeo, but the team as a whole. I think we legitimately have a couple all Big Ten players on this team, and a group that's probably capable of, not just capable of, that probably should be competing for a top 3 spot in the conference. So whenever you get that level of competitiveness back, this fan base is just too invested in the program not to respond accordingly.
It'll be a big doings. Chronic Hoosier, I can't thank you enough, brother, for joining us each week like you do. Thank you, sir. I look forward to seeing you on Saturday.
Hey, look forward to being there. I'm looking for. I got Jared Morris coming up this week for the Tailgate podcast. First time ever he and I are actually going to meet face to face. I'm pretty stoked about that. Yeah,
Don, are you guys doing that on location there?
We are doing the Tailgate podcast. I've got to figure out a spot. I'll probably have that scouted out later this afternoon. I'll give you a shout. Swing by, man.
I will do so.
Some beers. I got a case of zombie dust waiting for the moment.
Looking forward to it. Chronic Hoosier, thanks so much for joining us, brother. We'll see you on Saturday at Hoosier Hysteria.
Be good, man. Later.
Chronic Hoosier joining us as he does each and every week. Brought to you by Brooks Roofing. BrooksRoofingIN.com. The protection you need when Mother Nature strikes. They're probably working in your neighborhood right now. Reach out to them at BrooksRoofingIN.com. We'll be right back. We got Mike Schumann from the Daily Hoosier coming up. Stay tuned. Indiana Sports Beats coming right back.
If you're a homeowner and have storm damage to your roof, you want a hometown contractor you can count on and trust. Brooks Roofing of New Albany has been doing quality work since 2006. Check out their work for yourself at brooksroofingin.com. No job is too big or too small, commercial or residential. Brooks Roofing is probably working in your neighborhood right now. Visit brooksroofingin.com or call 812-868-ROOF. That's 812-868-ROOF. Brooks Roofing, the protection you need when nature strikes.
You know it. We're back here on Indiana Sports Beat with Jim Coyle. Welcome back. Thanks a lot for taking us along wherever you're going, whatever you may be doing. We appreciate you taking us along for the ride. Justin Kalen, high top the crew chief's box, keeping us spinning.
That's right.
Hit us up on the text line. Let us know what you're thinking. You get questions for Matt Weaver or Ken Bikoff, who are on the program today. That number, 502-414-1450. Hoosier Hysteria coming up. We've talked about that. A lot of games coming up this weekend, football games.
Speaking of Hoosier Hysteria, before we get to the games this weekend, Joker texted in 502-414-1450, that number again. He said, I heard they moved the time because of several events in Bloomington and streets around the stadium and arena being closed. Should have asked Chronic that.
True. I know that there is something going on, the run. That's part of the reason.
Oh, that's
parking
right.
issue.
Yeah, the run.
That they talked about. But those are usually during the day.
Yeah.
So
or during the morning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the early part of the day. So
Yeah.
moving it up, I don't know what that reason is for that is. But it is what it is.
You know who that would be a perfect question for? Ken Bikoff.
Ding, ding.
He'd probably tell you the exact history of why they moved it.
You ain't lying. Hey, make sure you like or follow us on Facebook so you can keep up and find the show each and every day. You don't miss a single thing. That's where all the content is loaded. We're going to give you absolute total coverage of IU Media Day, which is today. We're heading to Bloomington as soon as we get off of the air here to make sure you have complete and total coverage of Indiana men's basketball. We'll have player, coach interviews, live reports from Bloomington. So make sure you get locked in. You can follow us also on iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Google Play, or IndianaSportsBeat.com. That's where you need to go, IndianaSportsBeat.com, because that will automatically load you up. You can get every show just sent to you, but also all the content is there. Good place to go. So make sure you get locked in on Indiana Sports Beat for all the coverage. We'll be up in Bloomington today, as I said. Today is Media Day for Indiana men's basketball. Won't be very long. We'll be up there.
That's right.
Also, a lot of football this weekend. A lot of big games. You got the Big Ten Toilet Bowl. That's Penn State. I mean, not Penn State. That's PU, Purdue, on the road to Nebraska.
I thought you were going for Indiana Rutgers there, but yeah.
No, Purdue is 1-3.
Yeah.
Nebraska 0-3. So, who needs this win more? If you're Purdue, you're on the road, so you got to. It's going to be a difficult chore right there. But against a team that has not obviously had any success, but is hungry, wounded, and dangerous, and at home. Purdue is 1-3. If they lose that game, they're 1-4. That's a deep hole, man. Nebraska loses, they're 0-4. That's a deeper hole. So someone's season is kind of going in the tank this weekend.
Yeah, and I don't think either of those teams have a shot to make a bowl. But, I mean, when you talk about importance of a win on Saturday, you've got to give it to Purdue because that would still keep their bowl hopes alive. While I think it's not likely they make a bowl, that would still give them a shot to make a bowl. Nebraska, I think they're done.
You never know. I mean, I don't think that. I think they're a pretty equally matched team there.
Well, and the good thing for both of those teams is the fact that they play in the Big Ten West, so they get to play against the Minnesotas and the Iowas and the Northwesterns and the Illinois.
Much weaker schedule.
Yeah,
much easier go of it. But let's say Purdue loses. They go 1-4. That means they still have to play Wisconsin, Still have to play Iowa. There's probably 6 losses already right there. So there's your bowl game gone. That does not even include. I know they play somebody from across the East, and one of the bigger teams like Michigan. So there's another loss. That would put them at 7. I don't.
They play at Ohio State as well.
Oh my God, that's
and then
8.
and then they host Michigan State.
That's 9.
They host Minnesota, and they play at Wisconsin. So, yeah, 9.
And they have to play at Indiana. They could possibly lose 10 games this season.
They host Indiana.
Nope.
That's what it's showing.
Oh, I was at the game last year. It was in West Lafayette, so I assure you it's in Bloomington this year. But yeah, they could. They could lose a lot of games. They could get away from you in a hurry. In a flat hurry.
That's weird. It's got both Indiana and Purdue schedule wrong.
Who does? What are you looking?
ESPN.
They say at.
Yeah. Now the Indiana website says verse. So
who's listed on top and the bottom?
Purdue is listed on the bottom.
Okay, that's
Home team.
That shows the home team.
Yep. I know what I'm doing here. Come on.
Well, they wrong.
They are wrong. Yes, it is at Indiana.
It sure is. But anyway, someone's season is definitely. They're already off the rails, but someone's season's going into the tank here today or this weekend between those two.
Does Jeff Brom stick around after this year?
Oh, he has to. You're not nearly as wanted after a 2-10 season as you are a 10-2 season.
But you're a Purdue, and I feel like people probably realize that.
Yeah. Okay, you're at Purdue. You took a crap team last year and took them to a bowl game. You follow that up by going into the tank.
Yeah.
It looks worse.
Sure.
I think, personally. But he is what he is.
I mean, you always want to see
which is a great
improvement.
coach. He's a great coach. The only reason or way I see him moving after this season is if Petrino is gone in Louisville. That is the next stop for Jeff Brom, probably if it works out timing-wise.
That could happen with Petrino as well.
It could.
If they don't start winning some games.
It could. For that reason, it could. You got the Jurich-Petrino connection that's broken now down there. So, but, yeah. Then how about Central Florida? Up to number 13. They're ranked number 13. They didn't get all they go through last year undefeated. They don't get respect. They kind of blown off as the one shot whatever, but they knock off Auburn, and now here they are again. Look at them go this year. They're a 13.5 point favorite against Pittsburgh.
If they go undefeated again, do they get a shot this year?
Nope.
Gosh dang it!
They don't even get a shot at the playoffs.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about. Yeah.
Nope. No, because their schedule hasn't changed, and I don't think the respect for them has changed. I sure see people see them as a great team, a very, very good football team, but not one of the 4 best in the country, and I have to agree. I mean, yes, they beat Auburn. Who beat Alabama? But I think that's different. Auburn was not going into that game with the mindset that they're playing Alabama like they were when they played Alabama.
Sure. How must Scott Frost feel seeing UCF do some stuff and he can't get a win in Nebraska?
Well, happy for Central Florida because he built that program up to be that what it was.
But at the same time, it's like, they don't even need me. Did they ever even need me?
Well, he got them there. Yes,
Yeah.
They were like in the toilet when he got there. So he built that up. It's like building up a business and and delegating authority. But he's in his first year in Nebraska. That's unexpected what's going on. But when you make that kind of change, that amount of change, it sends ripple. It's a great ripple effect. It's like a tsunami. It takes a while. It's a slow moving wave that washes over the program of change and so many different things. So it takes a lot of time for the team to get in sync. Just a lot of change.
Including his bank account, which has more zeros likely.
change, all right. A lot of change. Now, Purdue, that's a different story. That's the second year, man. So you're supposed to be going up in the second year, not down. That's why it's a problem. But he's not in any kind of jeopardy. My goodness gracious, no. He's still one of the hottest coaches around. His name is taking just a little beating this year, but not much. I mean, Jeff Brom is what Jeff Brom is, and he's a well-known commodity, and he always will be. Great offensive mind.
Jeff Brom will decide when Jeff Brom wants to go.
On that job for sure. That's absolutely the case. You got a big boy bowl this weekend. In the Big Ten, even. Ohio State is at Penn State. The big whiteout. And I heard Kirk Herbstreit talking, said one of the greatest environments in college, in all of sports, is that Penn State whiteout. And it is, I was thinking, it looks like you're looking, if you were on the field, it would look like you're playing football in the middle of a cotton field. You just look out and all you see are just white dots everywhere. Look like a cotton field for as long as you can see. Ohio State's a 3.5-point favorite. What do you think of that game?
I like Penn State here. I really like Penn State here. Ohio State has been impressive, but I don't know. Penn State at home, I think this will probably be the only opportunity that Ohio State has to lose a game this year. I think Penn State gets it done.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Ohio State. I think that Urban Meyer back. They've been demolishing people.
Tell you what, I'll do you a favor. We'll get rid of the points.
Ooh.
Straight up.
Big Boy Bowl is right. Man, I named that one right, the Big Boy Bowl. Look at Justin putting his big boy pants on.
I don't want that 3.5.
Come on.
Get it out of here.
Oh, then we got to bet a burger on this.
I'm in.
We're betting a burger at Bubba's. I don't think I've had the burger. I've had everything on the menu.
How have you not had a burger?
I'm sure I have. I've had so much.
It's like got bacon ground in it.
Because I'm trying to eat healthier, but it's so good. What was that laugh about? I eat pretty healthy. Look, I've got a banana in here right now.
Nice.
I went from eating my sausage sandwiches to eating bananas in the morning.
Taking strides.
Hey, got to trim it in.
Couple texts in the show, 502-414-1450 if you want to do the same. Joker says, speaking of coaching changes, how about Peyton Manning for DeBoard as a new offensive coordinator?
Yeah, I'm going to skip right over that.
Peyton Manning doesn't want anything to do with that. He wants to be in the front office somewhere.
Plus, we've got sound coming up from Tom Allen, but we also from Rutgers coach.
Chris Ash.
Chris, you have that? All right.
He got some brutal questions in his conference on Monday. I mean, absolutely brutal. The media members at Rutgers do not hold back. At one point, they asked him, has the team quit on this staff? Just one example.
Well, let's hear it.
All right, here we go. Do you want to hear that specific question?
Yeah, this is Rutgers head coach.
Okay. Here we go.
A lot of outside noise. Has this team given up on the staff? Has this team quit?
No, absolutely not. If we would have quit, we wouldn't have went from giving up 376 yards, I think it was in the first half defensively, to 69 in the second half. I watched the tape. The effort is there. We're making too many mistakes. There's not an effort issue. We're making too many mistakes. We had some very uncharacteristic mistakes made by some older players Saturday on defense that led to some explosive plays. It had nothing to do with an effort problem. It had nothing to do with a preparation problem.
But you mentioned the second half. I mean, do you feel that Buffalo was running its same offense, maybe attacking you the same way they were in the first half?
Absolutely. I mean, especially when we scored a touchdown and we got the interception and had a chance to potentially make it a 15-point game. Our players came out and they fought in that second half and they played. We didn't make the mistakes that we made in the first half. When I'm talking mistakes, I'm talking about defensively. We played cleaner. The calls were executed. We had better fundamentals. We tackled better. We ran to the football better. The things that you need to do to have success. I watched the football game. I've got really no issues with most of the effort that we put forth out there on Saturday. And the players know that. We've discussed that. But we had, again, some mental errors on some particular calls in certain situations that killed us. Third down in the first half killed us defensively. We had a mental error on third down, allowed them to get a first down. Next thing you know, it's a touchdown because of a missed tackle. So there's some things that we have to do better, not only on the calls that ended up being explosive plays, but maybe on the third down before it to get off the field and not even let them continue to drive.
So there you go. There's Rutgers head coach.
One thing out of that question that really stood out is when the guy asked, well, do you think Buffalo did anything different? And Chris Ash said, no, probably not. We don't think they did anything different. That's bogus. When a team's up 35-6 at halftime, they're not going to come out and run the same game plan they were in the first half. They're just not. I don't care who it is leading the game. They're not going to run the same game plan.
They've got a lot bigger problems than that. IU soccer today against Northwestern, a game that was postponed from yesterday.
Why?
A little bit of rain, I believe. But, rain having havoc on a lot of things. But that game today, I think Wisconsin ended up losing to Michigan in soccer last night. But also a few other games. Kentucky, number 17, they're at home. And this has surprised me a little bit. I know South Carolina's supposed to be decent, but they're only a 1.5-point favorite over South Carolina at home.
That is surprising. So I don't think South Carolina is decent.
They have to be. There's no way. Kentucky's ranked. Kentucky's beaten 2 ranked teams. The Kentucky's at home. So to be only a 1.5-point favorite?
That tells me that Vegas likely doesn't believe in Kentucky yet. That doesn't tell me that South Carolina's good. That just tells me Kentucky's a little flying under the radar still.
Disagree.
Fair enough.
That's to me. That's saying that.
I mean, why would Vegas? So you're saying Vegas should believe in Kentucky more?
I'm not saying they should. I'm just saying I think that that says that South Carolina's a better team than you're giving them credit for. Kentucky's beaten 2 ranked teams. They're at home against this team. They're only a 1.5-point favorite. That tells me that they're giving credit to South Carolina. They're not knocking Kentucky. Kentucky's already proven that they're a decent team. That's just my take on it. Notre Dame also at home against Stanford. Again, this number 8. Notre Dame is still ranked number 8. They have been squeezing by teams all year long. They're still at home.
Except for last week. Last week they destroyed.
Do they ever leave South Bend?
All right.
Number 7, Stanford comes calling. So you got a cross-country road trip for the Cardinal. Notre Dame a 5.5-point favorite in that game.
How in the hell are they a 5.5-point favorite against the number 7 team in the country, yet against Ball State they're what, 8?
Yes, there you go, 7. 8, you're correct. What an enigma. They're such an enigma. It's unbelievable. You've also got, here's another one, though, that caught my eye. All right, number 11, Washington against number 20 BYU. Do you know what the spread is?
A lot.
17.5. This is 2 ranked teams, 2 top 20 teams. Not number 1 and number 20, but number 11 and number 20. I don't know that I've ever seen a spread that far between teams ranked that closely. These teams are only ranked 9 spots apart. In football, 9 spots? Yeah, that ain't very much.
See, I look at BYU like I look at Kentucky, as Vegas probably just doesn't believe in BYU yet. Sure, they went and beat Wisconsin, but what else have they done?
Well, they've only played
4 games.
So how much more do you want them to do?
Well, they'll lose by probably that spread this weekend.
Now, I'm not saying you're not correct, because Washington's got Chris Peterson, their coach, former Boise State coach, who I think is amazing.
And he knows a lot about BYU.
And he's a very creative mind. Very creative mind. But those are those games. We've got a lot more. We've got IU football coming up to talk about as well. Matt Weaver from Peegs.com is joining us in the next hour, as is Ken Bikoff. But don't go anywhere. We've got plenty to do. Stay tuned here on Indiana Sports Beat with Jim Coyle. We're coming right back.
And a crowd of young boys, they're fooling around in the corner. Drunk and dressed in their best brown baggies in their platform soles.
We all want a winning smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
Yeah, keep it rolling on. Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat with Jim Coyle here on Indiana Sports Radio. Justin Kalen, high top the crew chief's box, keeping the tune spinning.
That's right.
Hope you're having a great day. Thanks a lot for taking us along wherever you're going, whatever you may be doing. We appreciate it. Reach out on the text line. Let us know what you're thinking. If you've got any questions coming up from Matt Weaver or Ken Bikoff, that number 502-414-1450. 502-414-1450. And before we get any further, let's get to Justin and the headlines.
All right, here are your headlines for this Wednesday, September 26th, brought to you by Billy Joe's Gas and Food Mart, located on Highway 150 in Floyd's Knobs. Make sure you stop in for your hot breakfast, fill your gas tank, or hit up their daily lunch special, $5.99 today, meatloaf, mashed potatoes, and green beans. Former Lakers and Pacers coach Jack McKinney dies at 83 last night. Max Scherzer of the Nationals becomes just the 17th player since 1900 to record 300 strikeouts in a season, and the Astros get their 100th win and win the AL West all in one night last night. Those are your headlines, brought to you by Billy Joe's Gas and Food Mart, located off Highway 150 in Floyd's Knobs. Make sure you stop in today, $5.99, meatloaf, mashed potatoes, and green beans.
Sounds delicious.
How was that? You want to make fun of that reading?
I wasn't paying attention.
Nailed it.
Congratulations. Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat with Jim Coyle here on the Big X Sports Radio. Always remember, brought to you by Kentuckiana's Premier Truck Center. Whether it's one truck or the entire fleet, Kentuckiana's Premier Truck Center has your company covered. For sales and service, they have two locations, Louisville and Clarksville. Specialists in Volvo, Emo, Cummins, and Mack, but they handle everything. Get your truck in there. I know you got some listeners out there on the big trucks going around listening. We appreciate you. But check out Kentuckiana's Premier Truck Center. Also, Brooks Roofing, the protection you need when Mother Nature strikes. BrooksRoofingIN.com. They're probably working in your neighborhood right now. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice cold beer. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, pizza, burgers, beer. My favorite place to eat and watch a game. I was there Sunday watching football. It was like, I don't know how many games I was watching. I'll be honest.
A bunch.
All of them.
All of them.
All of them.
I think they fire off, 10? I think 10 at the 1 o'clock hour.
I have no idea.
I think it's 10.
It was just gluttony overload. Make sure you like and follow us on Facebook. You can also find the show podcast, a rebroadcast each day on iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Google Play, or IndianaSportsBeat.com. Make sure you stay up to date for our complete coverage of the Indiana Hoosiers. We're going to be at Indiana Basketball's Media Day today up in Bloomington at Assembly Hall. We'll have complete coverage there, player interviews, coach interviews, live reports. We'll have that for you tonight and all week, so make sure you stay tuned, come back. And a big show tomorrow, Terry Hutchins, of course. Also, James Kravitz from Rutgers, he's the Rutgers beat writer. We'll have him, as I try to have a beat writer from the opposing team each and every week. And then Friday, we've got Lance Stemler, former Indiana basketball player, coming on. I'll be playing golf with him and some guys in the Peegs Scramble on Friday. And then Saturday's Hoosier Hysteria. What a busy week, man.
Yep. What a fun week.
Packed. A lot of driving, a lot of busyness.
Also, don't forget about our text line, 502-414-1450, if you've got any questions for our guests coming up. JR texts in and says, Penn State and Wisconsin were the best places to play in the Big Ten.
Well, don't forget about those are two great ones. Camp Randall, man, that's an awesome one too. But the Big House, that's a pretty good place. It's pretty loud. And the horseshoe's not bad either. But, those are two great ones. Camp Randall Stadium, and they jump around. Nothing more fun than that part of Wisconsin's tradition.
Best Big Ten tradition there was until Iowa came along.
Yes. They took the best football tradition.
Yes.
They are the best that there is. Hit us up on the text line, 502-414-1450. Let us know what you're thinking if you have any questions coming up. Indiana taking on Rutgers this weekend as they try to bounce back from a very disappointing loss to Michigan State. Game they did not perform well. Kind of abused by the defensive line of Michigan State this weekend.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that.
How could you? They did. They were just
which is weird. We were talking about it yesterday. That was the strongest point for Indiana coming into the season was the offensive line.
Yeah, but again, just because it was their strongest, they weren't going up against just anybody. They were going up against the number one rushing defense in the country. So, but are they the number one rushing defense in the country because the teams they had played prior weren't throwing the ball or weren't running the ball very much, and were mostly running?
I'm going to guess that, yeah.
Oh, that was part of it, but no, they've got a hell of a defensive front, man. Those guys are tough. You don't hold Indiana is. I'm not saying that they're a juggernaut, but they're not chopped liver.
No,
and they were held to 0.9 yards per average per carry. So that's getting something done.
Yeah, I mean, when you've got backs like Stevie Scott and Ronnie Walker consistently getting carries, it's nicely done there by the defense because those guys are not little by any means.
No, and Indiana had a good showing defensively, but not good enough as Michigan comes out there with the win. But now they move on. They have the salve to soothe is Rutgers. It sounds like they're just a mess.
Yeah,
the coach sounds like he's just a stressed ball mess. I mean, can you imagine? He's in that New York market, so up in New Jersey, they're pounding them. You're getting beat. You just gave up 55 points in Kansas. What are you going to do about it? Yeah, I'm sure that's a rough job, man.
Yeah.
It's Rutgers to begin with. Then you're in that market, that media market. That's a rough way to make a living.
It doesn't help that the fans are extremely frustrated. I mean, I can't imagine there's too many Rutgers fans, but what little there are, it's been a rough year, and they don't see it getting any better anytime soon.
Nope, and it's not going to get better this week, I don't think, even though Indiana's going on the road. They were, last time I checked, a 17-point favorite. When you have a team that's a 17-point road favorite that just got manhandled, you got problems as far as Rutgers. So they got problems coming.
And head coach Chris Ash commented briefly on Indiana. Let's take a listen to that.
Indiana, they're off to a good start, good football team, and we're going to have to play a lot better when they come in to our stadium here on Saturday. There have been some really competitive games between Indiana and Rutgers. Last year, obviously, was not one of them, but we've got to play better and, again, do some of the things that I'm talking about with not being ourselves, mental toughness, execution, to be able to have a chance to win that game. So with that, I'll go ahead and open up for questions.
So, I mean, that just tells you where Rutgers is. When he's talking about Indiana coming in and he's talking about his team executing correctly, not making mistakes, that tells you exactly where Rutgers is. They're still trying to figure this thing out and get it moving. They're
way behind.
Yeah.
Definitely way behind on their program. Maryland, another team Indiana will play soon. They've seemed to have gotten things turned back around. They open up with a big win over Texas. Then they lost to somebody, I forget, but they got back on the winning side last week. So they're 3-1 on the year.
Yep.
So you got a loaded Big Ten East coming up, man. You got Iowa coming in. Well, after Indiana plays Rutgers, which to feel good again about yourself, that's great because I think the next game is against Ohio State.
Yep, at Ohio State.
I was going to say at Ohio State. So that's rough. And who do they play right after Ohio State?
You've got Iowa and Penn State coming to town.
So back-to-back home games after two road games, which they expect to split, which would put them at 4-1 on the year. And so if they split the two home games,
it'd be 4-2 after Ohio State,
or 4-2, and then if they split the two home games, 5-2,
5-3,
5-3 rather. That's You're 5-3 going into those last 4 games. You need one game. You need to win one game. And I know they've got at least 2 home games in that stretch.
Yeah, Purdue and Maryland.
Yeah.
And then they go to Minnesota and Michigan.
That Minnesota game is going to be tricky.
It'll be fun.
It's going to be tricky.
Yeah.
That's no guaranteed win right there. That's going to be a tough way to get a win. You're on the road. Michigan, you kind of, I don't see that happening right now.
Yeah.
But again, if they can do what they're supposed to do, hold serve, you beat Maryland at home.
There's your 6.
You beat Iowa at home, which that's going to be tough to do right there. But you have your destinies in your own hands, of course. But you have to take advantage of the opportunities that are presented to you. In Iowa at home, that's a tough opportunity, but it's an opportunity again. Just much like Michigan State was, to get that signature win that they're looking for, that they have yet to find under Tom Allen. Here's another opportunity. Penn State also offers a very difficult challenge, but another opportunity at home to get that signature win. I think a win on the road at Minnesota would be the biggest win to date for Tom Allen.
Oh, for sure.
And that's not, unfortunately, that's not a huge win. It's just the fact that it's on the road, and Minnesota's a decent team. So we'll see. When we come back, we've got Matt Weaver from Peegs.com joining us. Ken Bikoff on the program today, too. Stay tuned here on Indiana Sports Beat with Jim Coyle. We're coming right back.
If you want to get your day off to a good start, then stop at Billy Joe's Gas and Food Mart on Highway 150 in Floyd's Knobs. While you're filling your gas tank, you could fill your own tank with a hot breakfast or try one of Billy Joe's daily lunch special. Billy Joe's Gas and Food Mart opens at 5 a.m. and everything is made fresh daily. And if you bring your own mug, coffee is only 50 cents. And Billy Joe's also has free air. The best place to start your day is at Billy Joe's Gas and Food Mart on Highway 150 in Floyd's Knobs.
Today's guest is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville with hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer. Pizza, burgers, beer. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Well, welcome back into Indiana Sports Beat with Jim Coyle here on Big X Sports Radio. Joined now by Matt Weaver from Peegs.com. Matt, how are you doing, brother?
I'm doing okay. How you guys doing?
Can't complain. In the middle of the week, Indiana coming off of a bad loss at home against Michigan State after a great opportunity. Now they have the salve that soothes. Seems like a game that everybody needs after a tough loss against Rutgers. But, man, they just seem like they're really hurting.
Talking about Rutgers?
Rutgers, yes.
Yeah. They, I actually got to watch a lot of their games Saturday with the IU game being late. I watched quite a bit of it before I headed down to Bloomington, and it's not a good team. I mean, they are really in a bad spot. It's year 3 for Chris Ashley. You thought they'd be better. A lot of people thought they might actually be, maybe get close enough to maybe try to get to a bowl game, and they're not anywhere close to that. This is one of the poor Big Ten teams I've probably seen in the last decade. They're just offensively, they can't do anything. Defensively, people are going up and down the field on them. It's not a good team.
And, that's saying something, because this is another, not exactly a banner year for the Big Ten. You've got what I call the toilet bowl this weekend as Purdue goes out to visit Nebraska. Purdue 1-3 on the year. Nebraska 0-3. Somebody's season is going into the tank this weekend, it looks like.
Yeah, and that's kind of, I mean, it's even though it's two teams that are obviously, one win in their first, 7 games combined, it's kind of an interesting game because Nebraska obviously has not played well at all, just got hammered at Michigan. If Purdue wins this game, they have Illinois the following week, so they could be back to 500, but then they got, I think, Ohio State, Michigan State after that. So it's a big game for Purdue if they want to have any chance to try to keep their bowl hopes alive. And for Nebraska, they just need to show something.
And let's say Nebraska goes 0-4, Scott Frost. man, as a team, where do they go from there? You're 0-4, and you got the bulk of the Big Ten season in front of you. That's got to be a daunting thing to look forward to.
Yeah, I guess the one thing you got going for you if you're Nebraska is you're in the Big Ten West, and the Big Ten West is not very good this year. Wisconsin's not as good as everybody thought. At least they don't appear to be right now. Iowa's not bad, but they're not great. I mean, it's definitely. I mean, it's always been the easier division, but this year it seems like it's even easier than in previous years.
Indiana, as I said, coming off of a tough loss against Michigan State, a game in which they didn't perform well at all offensively. The offensive line, their strongest unit, pretty much manhandled, which stopped the run game. It prevented the passing game from getting going. But it was almost Indiana seemed surprised at how good Michigan State was, because we kind of knew coming in Michigan State had the number one rushing defense in the country, but yet Indiana kind of seemed to keep going right at them.
Yeah, I mean, you knew Michigan State's front seven was going to be good. To me, I guess the thing that was a little maybe disappointing in how they attack stuff is, after the first shot, and we talk about this a lot, after the first shot first possession where they took the shot with Reese Taylor, they didn't throw the ball downfield. And I know, people say, well, they were having trouble blocking, but there's things you can do. You can max protect, bring in tight ends. You got to do something to soften up the defense. You got to show them that you're going to throw the ball over their heads. If the defense has no fear of the ball going over their heads, I mean, they were basically playing almost like Indiana was a triple option team. They were walking their safeties up. They were blitzing corners. I mean, it was basically a 7-8 man front all night long. At some point, you got to try something to soften them up, to get it in their heads that you will take shots downfield. I mean, there was really nothing. It's and going forward, the book is out, in my opinion, on Indiana with Peyton Ramsey at quarterback. I mean, you can kind of squat at 10 yards, your DBs, because everything's basically within 10 yards as far as their passing routes. There's just not much, and outside the numbers, there's really nothing. Everything's in between the numbers. Like I said, crossing routes, dumping the ball off. So at some point, you got to get the ball downfield a little bit. You got to figure out a way to do that. Like I said, bring a tight end to help with blocking, run a two-man route. But you got Donovan Hale and Nick Westbrook, two big receivers, athletic guys, and I think between them they caught 5 balls. I mean, they've got to get more. They've got to get more action than that going forward.
And you say the book is out, that Indiana doesn't go down the field, but the funny thing is that's nothing that anyone didn't know, that we've been talking about this whole time, and now it's come to fruition, and how Indiana's crippled without that ability. Yet we saw the Michigan State game where the first half where it was like that, and no adjustments in the second half. That's what shocks me, is they did the same thing in the second half that they did the first half, and it didn't work any differently then.
Yeah, and they did. They tried the jet sweep once with Reese, and it didn't work. And I kind of understand why maybe you don't. But to me, and I'm not an offensive coordinator. These guys watch film. They understand. But I would have thought maybe you run the jet sweep with Reese going one way, and then have him pitch it to like Wap on a reverse. Something to soften them up, because Michigan State was basically just. They were blitzing. There was really no fear of any kind of. I would have thought maybe you might try a few trick plays, just something to get them on their heels a little bit, because they were in full attack mode the whole night defensively until the end when they had the lead, and then they just kind of played a little bit more prevent, and because you're not trying to give up the big play, but for 3 quarters at least, they kind of just they kind of pinned their ears back, where they were just coming downhill all night. And like I said, there's you got to try to they kept doing the same thing, like you said, over and over. And I don't know if it's they didn't think they could block for other stuff, or I'm not sure. But I would at least try something in the second half, a trick play, something to try to get them on their heels and see if maybe you can catch them off guard.
To me, it was reminiscent of the Purdue game last year, where the game plan just obviously was overmatched. But no adjustments made until like the waning seconds, and then it's like, hey, that works. Shouldn't have tried that earlier. But again, and it's kind of a carryover. It's the same old, very, very vanilla offense right now, and I don't think that they have the personnel that they can get through the season with a vanilla offense like that and have a lot of success.
No, and they've got guys. I've said they've got. Does Indiana have Ohio State or Penn State skill players? No, but they've got guys. I mean, Nick Westbrook is a good receiver. I mean, the guy averaged 15 yards a catch 2 years ago, 900-something yards receiving. Donovan Hale has shown it. I mean, obviously, Walt Fillier had a big game. They've got guys that if you throw, but you got to throw the ball to them. I mean, a receiver can't do anything if the ball never comes his way. I mean, there's not a lot he can do if the ball's not coming his way. So at some point, you got to try to get the ball to some of these guys. Those are playmakers. I mean, Nick Westbrook's a playmaker. Donovan Hale's a playmaker. And like I said, 5 catches between the two of them. That's just, those guys, they need to be combined. They need to get about 15 to 16 throws their way. And I would guess they weren't even half to where they're for that. You've got to get the ball to them. They didn't throw the ball to the tight end at all. I guess their plan was to use more receivers, which to me was a little surprising. I would think you'd want your tight ends in there to help with blocking, but I guess they felt like they could spread Michigan State out. The problem is Michigan State was getting to Ramsey before he was getting the ball out, so I might have maybe changed a little bit at halftime. But like I said, they're the coaches. They watch film. But yeah, it was surprising that it was pretty kind of plain and not a lot of wrinkles to what they did.
Talking with Matt Weaver from Peegs.com, what amazes me is I don't understand why are they so afraid of playing Michael Penix, because it seems like they are just afraid, like they're protecting him from something. And I'm like, he's shown to me, I think he can handle it. Why don't you give him a shot?
I agree, and to me, you're in Indiana. I don't think you can be afraid to play anybody. You know what I mean? Obviously there's some guys that, that they're not ready, but to me, my belief, you play your 11 best players or whatever, on offense or defense. He's one of the 11 best offensive players on that team. Nobody's going to convince me otherwise. I understand that, Ramsey's got more game experience and all that kind of stuff, but the bottom line is playmakers, they need, at any program, you need a guy at quarterback who can make plays, but it's really important in Indiana. I mean, we've seen when they've had that. And this guy can make plays. Peyton Ramsey is a nice quarterback, but he's not an elite athlete. He doesn't have a big arm. He's not gonna. Although he did kill him a little bit with some mistakes, but normally he's not going to kill you with mistakes. Doesn't make enough plays to overcome it. Michael Penix can do that for you. He can make those throws. He can do things to flip the field, to make those chunk plays. And I don't understand it either. To me, he should be getting more playing time. Watching him in fall camp, I really thought he probably should have been the starter. But like I said, those guys make the decision. They're paid to do that. So, all you can do is go with what they decide.
I love Tom Allen. Great guy, great leader, great motor of men. Has done a phenomenal job recruiting. Great defensive coach. But being a very inexperienced head coach, is that where this is coming from, do you think? I see that as just almost a fear for a job kind of a thing, trying to find your way through it, and yet not having that experience. But I think it's definitely showing.
Yeah, and I just think, as a defensive guy, he played. And I'm not, but I think it's a little bit more. After seeing Kevin Wilson, this is obviously a different way of approaching things. Kevin Wilson was, it'd be 4th and 6 on their own 40, and he's going for it. You know what I mean? He was a gambler, a riverboat gambler. That's what he did. And then I think Tom Allen's game plan is more conservative. You try to establish the run. Your defense plays pretty well. Try to win field position, stuff like that, and that's great. I don't have a problem with that. But sometimes you got to be aggressive. You got to put a team on the field, in my opinion, that does 3 things. You got to get fans excited. You got to get recruits excited, and obviously you got to win games. And nothing against Peyton Ramsey. The kid works hard. He's a great kid, but let's be honest. With him under center, you're not exciting fans. You're not exciting recruits, and you're winning some games, but I don't think you're going to win enough games with Peyton Ramsey that it's going to be sustainable. I mean, you've got to play the talented guys that you have, and to me, Michael Penix needs to get more snaps. Now, like I said, they're the coaches, but he's got. The kid's way too good, and not to bring right up Purdue, but you look at Brom, they were struggling. He was like, screw it, we're gonna throw the ball over the field. We can't. There's certain things we can't do, so we're gonna play to what we can do. And I'm not saying you do that if you're Indiana, but sometimes you gotta kind of throw caution to the wind and kind of go for it. Sometimes being conservative to me is a dangerous way to go.
Yeah, I mean, look at Alabama last year. Nick Saban at halftime puts a freshman quarterback in that had never taken, or I don't know if he'd ever taken a snap in a game, but if he had, it had been very few, for the national championship. Clemson, the number 2 team in the country now, just announced they're going with a true freshman at quarterback. These are big-time programs in big-time positions. They're willing to take a risk, and it just doesn't I can't understand how a team that is fighting for mediocrity isn't willing to take a chance. And I don't get it because he's shown he can play. So I'm just reaching for a reason. What is the reason? Because I don't think Peyton Ramsey gets you anything that Michael Penix doesn't, but Michael Penix gives you something that Peyton Ramsey doesn't.
Yeah, and those are great examples you provided, because the guys that are getting benched or got benched last year, Jalen Hurts for Alabama, and then I think it's John Kelly, I think the guy is for Clemson. Those are accomplished quarterbacks. They'd won, they'd won big games, and to bench them took some guts. It's not like you're benching a guy who played 4 or 5 starts like Peyton Ramsey had and had done okay. So, I mean, it just shows you, if cool programs like that are willing to make a change. And obviously, they're going to talented guys. I mean, that Lawrence kid at Clemson was like the number 1 player in the country, but still, he's a freshman, and the guy he's replacing is really talented too. So, and who has won a lot of games. So, I think you make great points. I mean, I'm not saying you do it because those schools do it, but it shows you that sometimes you got to shake things up. This week it's not going to matter. They could put you at quarterback and me at receiver, and they're still winning this game. If you don't win this game by 3 or 4 touchdowns, you got bigger issues than Peyton Ramsey, because this is not a good Rutgers team. You should be really PO'd after losing at home to Michigan State. Indiana should be fired up to go up there and get a win. So, but going forward after that, Ohio State, doesn't matter who they play. You're not beating those guys. But after that, Iowa. To me, that's kind of become, I don't want to say a must-win, but I think it's pretty close. The Iowa game's a big one at home. On homecoming, I think you got to win that game.
I agree, and I agree with you. You said that I could start a quarterback. I've been saying that all week. I could start a quarterback against Rutgers, and Indiana would win. But, Matt, thank you so much. I appreciate you. Make sure you check out all of his work on Peegs.com. Matt Weaver, thank you, brother.
Okay, you guys have a good week.
You too, Matt. Matt Weaver from Peegs.com, brought to you, of course, by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer. We're coming right back on Indiana Sports Beat. We've got Ken Bikoff. He'll have a great story, I'm sure. Stay tuned.
I said, the boys are back in town. The boys are back in town. The boys are back in town.
Hey, if you're in the market for a new truck or tractor, car, or ATV, you need to be at Hollis Auction Service on November the 10th. Located on Highway 150 in Greenville, just west of Highway 335, Hollis Auction Service also needs items for the auction. If you're looking to sell, call Billy Joe Hollis today at 502-664-1606. That's 502-664-1606. Make sure you're at Hollis Auction Service in Greenville on November 10th. Today's guest is brought to you by Kentuckiana's Premier Truck Center, located 5 miles north of downtown Louisville, just off of I-65 at Veterans Parkway in Clarksville. Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat with Jim Coyle here on Big X Sports Radio, 1450 96.1, joined by one of my favorite guests, Ken Bikoff from Peegs Podcast. How's it going, Ken?
Going real well. How you doing this morning?
Pretty good, brother. Pretty good. Staying busy. Just trying to get this rain out of here and get on to a better week, hopefully. We got the Peegs Golf Scramble coming up Friday. Are you playing in that?
Yes, I am. I'm looking forward to it. It's been a little while since I golfed, and I wanted to get out to a course so I don't have to make a complete fool out of myself, but rain is not making that possible. So, I normally make a fool of myself with a microphone in my face. Now I'm going to do it with a golf club in my hand.
Don't worry. I'll be there doing the same thing and probably a little worse. So all that. A lot going on. How's your book going? We talk periodically, and Ken's been working on a book for some time. He's bringing along about Indiana athletics from the early part of the century up to the 20s, which if you listened before, you'd heard. When you listen to that doesn't sound like an interesting story if you just go by the title. But let me tell you, once we started talking and I got into it, I was amazed at the stories came out. It was just I kept wanting more and more. So how is the book coming?
Book's at the publisher. It's supposed to be published in the fall of next year because they want to kind of line it up with the bicentennial of IU. That's a big deal down in Bloomington. But it's at the publisher. It's ready to go. It's been written. I'm looking really forward to it because, again, it's not about results. It's not about what happened with in this game or that game. It is a storybook of the craziest things that you ever imagine. You think about those times, and there's a certain feel in your mind of how everybody acted and how everybody conducted themselves, and that just everybody needs to know that there is nothing new ever, and the kids today that are all crazy, they are exactly as bad in 1913 as they are in 2018. People are exactly the same, even though movies and TV have shaped kind of the way that we see that time period. Folks, it is exactly the same. So I'm really looking forward to it. It's going to be out in the fall of next year, and I'm really excited about it.
Oh, I can't wait. I want a Ken Bikoff book tour. I want everything, man. I'm looking, but he's telling you the truth. These stories, some of them they're humorous, they're comical, they're like unbelievable. And like he said, nothing happens new. They were cheating back in the turn of the century, just like they are now, people. And so there's all kinds of crazy things. And what's one good, quick little story that the fans may not know about?
Well, the fun one, here's a fun one. It's about the old open bucket being stolen in 1930. and by stolen, Indiana had never won the old open bucket at the time. It was only 5 years old, so they go to West Lafayette, and they win the game, and Purdue didn't even bother to bring the bucket to the game. And so the team had a train to catch back to Bloomington, so they sent one poor guy to this dance that was supposed to be a celebratory dance by Purdue. Well, now he's the one IU guy. They leave one poor guy back to pick up the bucket, and so he's worried he's going to get his butt kicked. So he decides, you know what? Why don't you guys just send it to me tomorrow so I don't have to walk out into the darkness?
Yeah, just FedEx it down.
Yeah, and they say, sure, fine. So the arrangements are made via the phone, and a guy takes the bucket to Indianapolis, where some guys show up, like decked out in 1930s version of Indiana regalia. I mean, they have pennants and stickers and all that, and the guy gives them the bucket, and about maybe an hour later, another guy shows up and says, hey, I'm here from Indiana to get the bucket. And they're like, hey, we already gave it to you. And he said, no, and it turns out those were not Indiana fans. Those were Purdue fans who just took off with the bucket. Assumed Purdue fans, I'll say that, because we still don't know who took it. But there was a whole thing. It became a national story. Governors got involved, and eventually they got it back, and we still don't know who stole it. But again, it's some things that you think wouldn't happen, in that time period. Not only happened, but they happen in a way that we couldn't conceive of happening now.
Amazing. It's always great. And that thing is full of stories. I thought he was going to tell me something I'd already heard. Nope. Every time it's something, it's just, I'm like, golly. And they're amazing. So I promise you can't wait till that book comes out. I know I'm looking forward to it. I have been since the first story he told me out of it. So looking forward to that. Also, you can catch Ken after each game, Indiana game. He does the Peegs podcast. How's that been going for you, Ken?
It's been going. It's been fun. I do the post-game call-in show on the radio for IU football as well, and I just think that it's just an interesting program this year. And, I've long felt that the football program, I understand that they haven't been successful over the years, but they don't get nearly the attention as the basketball program. And that's a shame because I really feel that Tom Allen has this program going in a good direction. Yeah, they lost to Michigan State last week, and I just hope that people don't just shake their heads and say, oh, here we go again. First off, here we go again hasn't been happening for the past couple of years. I mean, this is a program that is just a couple games under 500 over maybe one or two games under 500 over the past 3 seasons. So that in and of itself is a step up to where we've seen this program in the past. And, just one loss, they have, fans could feel that way if Indiana goes to Rutgers this week and loses. This should be a game where Indiana goes ahead and cruises, and they should be excited about that. So, going to Columbus at 4-1 with some real winnable games going forward, I think is something that IU fans should watch. And then it's an exciting time, too, to have Hoosier Hysteria coming up this weekend. It's IU Media Day today for basketball. So it's exciting. And, whether it's on the podcast, on the radio show, there's always a lot to talk about. And so one thing with covering IU is it's never boring.
Absolutely, and I think that we're talking with Ken Bikoff from Peegs.com, of course. I think it's, as far as the loss, it's not an Indiana loss. I think for a lot of folks it seems like the frustration is growing because of how they're losing. That's the part that seems kind of like a little same old, kind of what happened against Michigan last year, a very unimaginative offense. And the fact now you've got Michael Penix into that equation, because we know that while Peyton Ramsey's a good kid, a hardworking kid, a great quarterback, or good quarterback, Michael Penix has a much higher ceiling, and we're seeing the ceiling of Peyton Ramsey, and it's like, all right, let's take a shot here because we really don't have a lot to lose. Let's see Michael Penix. And I think there's just a lot of frustration in that regard of wanting to see a little more attempt, because I didn't see a lot of changes in that Michigan State game as far as making post-halftime adjustments offensively.
Well, I was going to say that, there's certainly the idea that there's nobody better to quarterback a team than the backup. And, we haven't seen Penix a bunch. I might have gone ahead and just thrown him out there for multiple reasons when it was 28-7. But the bottom line is that Indiana came within 7 points and turned it over to the defense, which had been great all year, and said, "Get us the ball back." And they managed. They made a mistake, and it ended up costing them dearly. And so that's why that 35-21 final. It's 35-21. All of those count. But when you look at other things, you had 7 points that came off a pick six that has nothing to do with that defense. You have a touchdown scored off a fake field goal, which has nothing to do with that defense. The points count, the loss counts. It's not how, it's how many. But the bottom line is, it's not as if that Michigan State game was a disaster. Indiana had a chance to was in striking distance late in the fourth quarter against a ranked team, and nobody wants to hear about moral victories. I understand that. But, hey, there are other programs that are in a lot worse shape, and there is frustration. I get it, because Indiana didn't run the ball against Michigan State very well, and so that's a concern. You have Peyton Ramsey is a solid quarterback. He is a game manager. He's not going to lose you games. We just haven't seen that ability to just suddenly win games, and that's what makes Michael Penix so intriguing, is that he – when you're behind like that, he has a bigger arm. He has a better running ability. All of that. But the question then is, do you throw him out into his first Big Ten game against a defense like that? I don't know. In that game in particular, I would have preferred having a quarterback who left the pocket a little bit sooner rather than later and tried to make plays with his feet. But here's the part of the problem, Jim, is that I was in the press box watching when Indiana all of a sudden threw an unproven kid named Kellen Lewis in the game at Ball State, and all of a sudden this kid ran wild. And so, the big arm, the ability to run, those are all things that fit with Penix. So, yeah, against that Michigan State team, you think, well, you know what, would it be the worst thing to throw him in there? They still had that opportunity to win late. Like I said, now if you look at just this Rutgers game should be a cruise for Indiana. It better be a cruise. Otherwise, people have a reason to be a little bit concerned. Ohio State's obviously going to be a challenge. Then you got games against Iowa, which Indiana tends to be somewhat competitive with. But that trip to Minnesota is certainly winnable. The Maryland game is certainly winnable. Purdue is certainly winnable. So you beat Rutgers. You have opportunities coming up against some other teams, and you have 3 very winnable games where you very well may be favored against Minnesota, Maryland, and Purdue that give Indiana the kind of that framework, that scaffolding to have a 7-win season before they get to a bowl. I mean, they have to perform on the field, but on paper, you could see a path there, and certainly I think Indiana fans would feel very happy about that kind of outcome.
Absolutely, and it's I'm talking with Ken Bikoff from Peegs.com. It's almost ironic that as in flux as their offense has been, they're still in great position to win 7 games this year, and maybe an 8th if things were to go right. But they're in great shape, definitely for a bowl, and I know that's tantamount, something that Tom Allen and the staff are focusing on, making sure they get there so they can get to that next level. And hopefully, though, I want to see Penix this game. If they don't play him, obviously, it's because they're trying to preserve that red shirt, which I totally disagree with because I think they need to win today much rather than they need to worry about winning 3 years from now. Well, we'll find out when they do play, but what a great opportunity it should be for him to get a lot of Big Ten snaps.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's why the Ball State game was so important. And the way Indiana won it, they cruised. Peyton Ramsey played 1 series in the second half, and it got turned over to Michael Penix for most of the rest of the game. And so, yeah, you do want him to get that kind of experience, and that's why jumping out to an early lead against Rutgers, again, is important to get him that Big Ten experience and take what you want. Now, if you look at the redshirt situation, I mean, look, when they brought in Brandon Dawkins, I felt that the idea for that was, hey, we're going to bring in Dawkins. It's going to be Dawkins and Ramsey this year. Penix gets a year to develop, and then we could turn it over to him next year and be a nice little bridge where you would have, at the very least, Peyton Ramsey, a guy with experience who might be able to serve as a backup going forward. And so I also think back to the fact that Nate Sudfeld, when he was a true freshman, he was pushed into action because Trey Roberson suffered a broken leg in like the second game of the season. And the idea was for Sudfeld to redshirt that year. And you think about that team a couple years ago, Richard Lego's first year, if you have an experienced fifth-year starter in Nate Sudfeld that year, it really changes what happens that year. It changes that program. But because they were forced to play him early, he didn't have that opportunity. So I think that there's always that part of it in the back of your mind. You say you don't worry about 3 years down the road. You need to win right now. Well, Indiana has that ability, that path to win right now. If you can hold him back, I understand the reasoning, but I really feel that they're going to give him an opportunity, and that red shirt isn't something that they're going to go with and this year because, Penix does give this chance an opportunity to win just thanks to his arm, his running ability, all of that.
I agree with you, Ken. Ken Bikoff from Peegs.com. Anything else you're working on or the fans need to know about?
Oh, it's just, it's always the Peegs podcast. Like I said, Media Day. It's coming up today. We got Hoosier Hysteria this weekend, which is a great event for the fans, and all of it is just trying to bring the best that we can to the people and make them just enjoy the coverage. I try my podcast. A lot of the different podcasts that are out there, they feel not informal. I don't want to say that, but it just anybody with the microphone can go ahead and pick it up and do it. I try to get. Make it as much of a radio show as possible just because that's my background. And so that's really my focus this time of year.
Sounds good. Ken, we'll look forward to seeing you later on today at the Media Day.
All right, take care.
Thank you. Ken Bikoff from Peegs.com. Make sure you check him out. Brought to you by Kentuckiana Premier Truck Center. Whether it's one truck or the entire fleet, Kentuckiana Premier Truck Center has your company covered for sales and service. Locations Louisville and Clarksville. Specialists in Volvo, Emo, Cummings, and Mack. But they take care of everything. Get those big trucks in there, guys. Thanks a lot for joining us along here today. Had a great program. Matt Weaver was on from Peegs.com. Just got off with Ken Bikoff. God, I love talking to Ken. He's great just to talk to, but I could talk about those stories all day. And I'm not kidding about that book he's writing, those stories. Some of them, they're just funny, and you're like, what? This is what, 1905, and they did what?
He's told us a couple of the good stories.
Oh, man. Yeah, and it's like I thought he maybe was going to repeat himself today.
I did too.
Just because, I just prompted him, hey, pull one out. So a lot of times you go to one of your old favorite standbys, but no, a whole different deal. I'd never heard that one. But he could probably go on for days with that as
Absolutely.
well. Make sure coming up on the program tomorrow, Terry Hutchins. Also, James Kravitz, beat writer for Rutgers, will be on the program, so we'll get the viewpoint from the opposing side as well. Also, Lance Stemler on Friday.
I'm anxious to hear what the Rutgers beat writer has to say.
Yeah,
I want to know what their thoughts are on.
Yeah, because at least with those guys, you get the honest opinion.
Exactly.
They're going to tell you the truth. They don't. There's no coach speak and all that.
No sugarcoating.
Yeah, because they don't have to care. They don't care. Their market's not hearing this. They can say whatever they want.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Also, today is media day for Indiana basketball. We'll be there with complete coverage for you. Interviews with coaches, players, and live reports from Bloomington today, and we'll have the rest of that all week long. Then we've got Hoosier Hysteria on Saturday. So coming up next, you got Kentucky Roll Call, TJ Walker, and Nick Rouse. For Justin Kayla, and I'm Jim Coyle, and I will see you on the radio.